The champagne glasses clinked around me, but all I could hear was the sound of my heart breaking. Our Pearl anniversary celebration, 30 years of marriage, and my husband just handed me divorce papers in front of 150 guests. "You have been adequate," he announced coldly, his voice echoing through the grand ballroom. "But I deserve passion now. I deserve youth. Pack your things and leave our penthouse by Monday morning." What he did not know was that the penthouse was never ours. It was always mine. And what I was about to reveal would destroy him completely. My name is Victoria Lawson, and this is the story of how I went from being a discarded wife to a woman who reclaimed everything. The first sign came 3 months before our anniversary. I woke up at 2:47 in the morning to find the bed empty beside me. The glow from my husband Marcus' bathroom illuminated the hallway. I heard his voice, low and urgent, speaking to someone on the phone. His tone was different, softer, almost tender in a way he had not spoken to me in years. "I need more time," he whispered. "She cannot know anything yet. Everything has to look perfect until the party. After that, it will all be over." My blood ran cold. I lay there in the darkness, my mind racing through possibilities. Who was he talking to? What would be over after the party? Our marriage. Our life together. The foundation we had built over 3 decades. I pretended to be asleep when he returned to bed. His body was tense, restless. He smelled different too, like expensive perfume, floral and young, nothing like the classic scents I wore. When morning came, I watched him carefully. Marcus was a creature of habit, predictable in every way. But lately everything had changed. He started going to the gym at odd hours. He bought new clothes, tighter shirts, designer jeans that men his age rarely wore. He colored his gray hair and grew a beard. He looked at his phone constantly, hiding the screen whenever I walked by. And worst of all, he started criticizing me. "Victoria, you really should do something about those lines around your eyes," he said one morning over breakfast. "There are treatments for that now. Women your age do not have to look so worn." "I am 55 years old, Marcus. These lines come from 30 years of smiling beside you." He shrugged. "I'm just saying you have let yourself go. Look at Jennifer next door. She is our age but looks 40. You should try harder." Jennifer next door had also just left her husband after finding him in bed with their personal trainer. But I did not mention that. Instead, I started watching Marcus more closely. I noticed the credit card statements with charges from expensive restaurants I had never been to, hotel bookings in our own city, jewelry purchases I never received, thousands of dollars disappearing into a black hole of deception. One afternoon I followed him. I am not proud of it, but desperation makes you do things you never imagined. He drove to a luxury apartment building downtown, one of those modern glass towers with a doorman and valet parking. He walked in like he owned the place, and 20 minutes later, he emerged with a woman. She was young, maybe 28 or 30, long blonde hair, perfect figure, designer clothes. She clung to his arm, laughing at something he said. They looked like lovers, comfortable and familiar. My husband, the man I had built a life with, was parading around with someone young enough to be our daughter. I drove home in a daze. When Marcus returned that evening, he acted like nothing had happened. Dinner was quiet. I watched him eat, watched him check his phone, watched him live his double life right in front of me. That night I could not sleep. I went to his study and looked through his desk drawers. Hidden beneath a stack of old tax documents, I found a folder. Inside were printouts of text messages, hundreds of them, between Marcus and someone named Amber. I cannot wait until you are free. This sneaking around is getting exhausting. Soon, my love. After the anniversary party, everything will be handled. I have talked to Reynolds about the property division. He says we can structure it so she gets minimal assets. But what about the penthouse? That is worth millions. It will be ours. Reynolds found a loophole. Since it was purchased during the marriage, it counts as marital property regardless of whose name is on the deed. My hands shook as I read. Reynolds was Marcus' attorney friend, someone I had trusted, someone who had been to our home for dinner parties. They were plotting against me, planning to take everything, using legal tricks to steal what was rightfully mine. But they had made one crucial mistake. They assumed I was ignorant. They assumed I would not fight back. I photographed every page of that folder. Then I called my old college roommate, Diana Chen, who had become one of the top family law attorneys in the state. We met the next morning at a coffee shop far from my neighborhood. "Victoria," she said after I explained everything, her face grave. "This is serious. But you have something they do not know about." "What?" "The prenuptial agreement you signed before the marriage. Do you remember the terms?" I frowned, trying to recall. It was 30 years ago. We were young and in love. Our parents insisted on it. "Let me guess," Diana said. "Your parents put in a clause about premarital assets remaining separate property." "Think so." "My father was very protective. He wanted to make sure I was taken care of." "Victoria, if that penthouse was purchased with money from your trust fund, even partially, it is yours. Not marital property. Yours alone." The realization hit me like lightning. My father had given me a substantial trust fund when I turned 25. Marcus and I bought the penthouse 2 years into our marriage. I had used my trust money for the down payment, nearly $800,000. The deed was in both our names, but the money was mine. "I need to see that prenup," Diana said. "And I need to see the purchase documents for the penthouse. If we can prove your separate funds were used, Marcus cannot touch it. I have everything in our safe deposit box. But, get it. And Victoria, do not let him know you are on to him. Let him think you are clueless. Let him plan his little ambush at the anniversary party. We will be ready." I spent the next 2 months preparing. I gathered documents, bank statements, trust fund records, photographs of text messages. I opened a new bank account in my name only and transferred money from our joint savings. I made copies of everything valuable in our home. I documented every lie, every late night, every suspicious charge. And I played the perfect wife. I smiled when Marcus criticized my appearance. I agreed when he suggested we have a big anniversary party. I even helped him plan it, knowing full well what he intended to do. The party was his idea, he claimed. "A celebration of our love," he said. "Let us invite everyone we know, all our friends, all our business associates. I want the world to see how happy we are." I knew what he really wanted. He wanted an audience for my humiliation. He wanted to embarrass me publicly so I would be too ashamed to fight him in court. He wanted to break me emotionally before the legal battle even began. But I had my own plan. 2 weeks before the party, Marcus' mother called me. Evelyn Price had never liked me. She thought her son had married beneath him, that I was not sophisticated enough, not connected enough. For 30 years, she had made subtle digs about my appearance, my career choices, my failure to give her grandchildren. "Victoria dear," she said in that saccharine voice she used when she wanted something. "I have been thinking about the future. Marcus is not getting any younger. Have you two thought about updating your will?" "We have wills, Evelyn." "Yes, but things change. Assets accumulate. It would be wise to consult with an attorney about protecting the family wealth." "The family wealth." She meant Marcus' wealth, as if I had contributed nothing to our life together. "I am sure Marcus has everything under control," I said carefully. Of course. But you know, dear, at your age, health issues can arise. It would be prudent to have things in order. Just in case. Just in case I died conveniently, leaving everything to Marcus. The implications made my skin crawl. After we hung up, I called Diana. "They are circling like vultures. His mother is already talking about wills and assets." "Let them circle," Diana said. "When the time comes, we will show them exactly who they are dealing with." The week of the anniversary arrived. Marcus was increasingly agitated, checking his phone every few minutes, having hushed conversations in other rooms. He met with Reynolds 3 times that week. He bought a new suit, expensive shoes, had his teeth whitened. He was preparing for his grand performance. On the morning of the party, I found him practicing a speech in his study. I stood outside the door and listened. "Friends and family, thank you for being here on this momentous occasion. 30 years is a long time to spend with one person. Long enough to realize when you have made a mistake. Long enough to know when it is time to move forward with honesty and courage. Today I want to tell you the truth. My marriage to Victoria has been a facade for years. We stayed together out of obligation, out of habit, out of fear. But I have found something real now, something passionate and alive. I have found someone who makes me feel young again. And I owe it to myself, to her, and even to Victoria to be honest about it. My stomach churned. He was going to humiliate me in front of everyone we knew. He was going to paint himself as the brave truth-teller and me as the pathetic wife who had trapped him in a loveless marriage. I went back to our bedroom and opened my closet. Inside hung the dress I had chosen for tonight, a stunning emerald green gown that cost $5,000. I had bought it with my own money from a consulting job I had done last year. Marcus did not know about that job or that money. There were many things Marcus did not know. That afternoon, Amber called the house. I answered before Marcus could get to it. "Oh," she said, clearly flustered. "I must have the wrong number. Are you looking for Marcus?" Asked sweetly. I am sorry. Who is this?" "This is his wife. And you must be Amber." Silence. "Do not worry," I continued. "You will meet me tonight at the party. Marcus is introducing you as his new marketing assistant." Very creative cover story. I do not know what you are talking about," she stammered. "Course you do not. See you tonight, Amber. Wear something nice. It is going to be quite the evening." Hung up. My hands were steady. My heart was calm. The war was about to begin, and I was ready. The grand ballroom at the Remington Hotel was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers, white roses everywhere, tables set with fine china and gold chargers. 150 guests in formal attire, sipping champagne and congratulating us on 30 years of marriage. The irony was suffocating. Marcus was in his element, shaking hands, laughing loudly, playing the role of successful businessman and devoted husband. He introduced Amber as his new marketing assistant. She looked nervous, uncomfortable, clutching a glass of wine like a lifeline. She was pretty, I had to admit, in that generic way young women often are. But there was nothing special about her. Nothing that justified destroying a 30-year marriage. Played my part too. I smiled, accepted compliments, thanked people for coming. I watched Marcus watching Amber. I watched his mother, Evelyn, smiling triumphantly from her table. I watched Reynolds, the attorney, sitting in the back corner, a folder on his lap. Everything was in place for their ambush. Then the speeches began. Friends stood up and told funny stories about our marriage. My sister cried while talking about how she had always looked up to our relationship. Marcus' business partner praised him as a man of integrity and loyalty. The hypocrisy was overwhelming. Finally Marcus stood up. He took the microphone and the room fell silent. "Thank you all for being here tonight," he began. 30 years ago, I married a woman I thought I knew. We built a life together, a good life on the surface. But as time passed, I realized something. I realized that staying in a comfortable relationship is not the same as being happy. It is not the same as being alive. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. People exchanged confused glances. "I have made many mistakes in my life," Marcus continued. "But the biggest mistake was pretending. Pretending to be satisfied when I was not. Pretending to be content when I was dying inside. And I am done pretending." He turned to look at me. His eyes were cold, detached. "Victoria, you are a good woman. You have been a dutiful wife. But you are not the woman I need anymore. I need someone who understands me, someone who makes me feel alive. I need passion, excitement, youth. And I have found all of that with someone else." The room erupted. Gasps, shouts of disbelief, chairs scraping as people stood up. My sister started crying. My friends looked horrified. But I sat perfectly still, my hands folded in my lap, my face expressionless. "I want a divorce," Marcus announced. "And I want it to be fair. Victoria will receive what she is entitled to under the law. But I will not be held hostage to a dead marriage any longer. I am choosing happiness. I am choosing life." He gestured to Amber, who stood up reluctantly, her face pale. "This is Amber Collins," he said. "She is not just my marketing assistant. She is the woman I love. She is my future. And I am not ashamed to say it." The room was in chaos now. People were yelling at Marcus, calling him names. My mother-in-law was smiling smugly. Reynolds was already pulling out papers from his folder, ready to serve me with divorce documents in front of everyone. But then I stood up. I took the microphone from Marcus' stunned hand. And I spoke. "Thank you, Marcus," I said calmly. "Thank you for being so honest. Now let me be honest too." The room quieted instantly. Everyone turned to stare at me. "I have known about your affair with Amber for 3 months. I have known about your secret meetings, your hotel rooms, your plans to divorce me and take everything I own. I have known about your conversations with Reynolds, about the legal strategies you plan to use against me. I have known everything." Marcus' face drained of color. Reynolds started to stand up, but several angry guests blocked his path. "You thought I was ignorant," I continued. "You thought I was weak. You thought you could humiliate me publicly and I would just accept it. But you made several critical mistakes." I pulled out a folder from my purse, the same kind of folder Reynolds had been carrying. "First, you assumed the penthouse was marital property. It is not. I purchased it with money from my trust fund, money that was mine before we married. According to our prenuptial agreement, which I am sure you forgot about, all premarital assets remain separate property. The penthouse is mine. You have no claim to it." Marcus stumbled backward, grabbing the edge of the table for support. "Second," I continued, "you spent $87,000 of our joint savings on your mistress. Jewelry, hotels, designer clothes, a car. I have documented every transaction. In our state, that is considered waste of marital assets. You will be required to repay every penny." Amber let out a small cry. She had not known about the money, I could tell. She thought Marcus was independently wealthy. "Third," I said, looking directly at Evelyn, "your mother called me 2 weeks ago suggesting I update my will. She wanted to make sure the family wealth stayed in the family in case something happened to me. How convenient. But what she did not know is that I recorded that conversation. And several others. All suggesting that my sudden death would be beneficial to the Price family." Evelyn turned white as a sheet. People around her moved away, staring at her in horror. "I am not accusing anyone of planning anything," I said carefully. "I am simply pointing out the suspicious timing of these conversations." The room was utterly silent now. You could hear a pin drop. Finally I said, turning back to Marcus, "You wanted to introduce Amber as your future. But did you tell her about the 3 other women you have been seeing over the past 5 years? Did you tell her about Jessica in accounting? Sarah from the gym? Monica, your so-called business trip companion?" Amber gasped. "No," she whispered. "He said I was the only one." "I have proof of all of it," I said. "Emails, text messages, credit card statements, photographs. You are not choosing passion, Marcus. You are choosing chaos. You are choosing to destroy everything we built because you cannot handle getting older. Because you are terrified of becoming irrelevant." I set the microphone down on the table and looked at him. Really looked at him. This man I had loved for 30 years. This man who had become a stranger. "I am filing for divorce tomorrow," I said quietly. "You can keep your young girlfriends, your midlife crisis, your desperate attempt to feel important. I am taking the penthouse, half of our real assets, and my dignity. And you will leave this ballroom tonight knowing that you destroyed a good thing for nothing." I picked up my purse and walked toward the exit. The crowd parted for me like the Red Sea. As I reached the door, I turned back one last time. "Oh, and Marcus. The consulting company I started last year. The one you did not know about because you never asked what I did with my time. It is worth $2 million. And it is entirely separate property. So you can add that to the list of things you will never have." I walked out into the cool night air. Behind me, I could hear the chaos erupting again, voices shouting, accusations flying. But I did not look back. I got into my car and drove away from that hotel, away from that life, toward something new. The divorce proceedings began the following week. Diana filed the paperwork on Monday morning, and by Tuesday afternoon, Marcus had been served. He tried calling me 47 times that first day. I blocked his number. He sent emails begging for a chance to explain. I deleted them without reading. He even showed up at the penthouse, but the doorman had strict instructions not to let him up. The legal discovery phase revealed things that shocked even me. Marcus had not been having affairs for 5 years. He had been unfaithful for almost 15 years, half our marriage. There were women in every city he traveled to for business. Hotel charges, gifts, even an apartment he was renting in Chicago for a woman named Patricia who thought she was his only girlfriend. The financial records were equally damning. Beyond the $87,000 spent on Amber, there were credit cards I did not know about, with balances totaling over $200,000. Secret investment accounts that had lost money. A failed business venture he had tried to hide. Marcus was not the financial success he pretended to be. He was drowning in debt, and he had planned to use my assets to bail himself out. Diana was ruthless in depositions. She questioned Reynolds about his role in the conspiracy to defraud me. The attorney tried to claim attorney-client privilege, but Diana had evidence of his participation in the scheme before Marcus had officially retained him. Reynolds' law license was suspended pending investigation. She questioned Amber about the gifts and money she had received. The young woman broke down crying, admitting she had no idea Marcus was married when they first met. He told me he was divorced, she sobbed. He showed me pictures of the penthouse and said it was his. He said his ex-wife had gotten everything in the divorce and he was starting over. I believed him. Evelyn was deposed as well. Diana asked her pointed questions about the conversations regarding my will and the suggestions that my death would be convenient. The older woman became flustered, contradicting herself multiple times. By the end, she was screaming that I had manipulated her words, that she was only concerned about her son. The judge overseeing our case was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s named Judge Barbara Morrison. She reviewed all the evidence with a careful eye. During one hearing, she looked at Marcus over her reading glasses and said, "Mr. Price, in 30 years on the bench, I have seen many cases of marital deception. But this level of calculated cruelty is remarkable even by those standards." Marcus tried to defend himself. "Your Honor, I made mistakes, but I still deserve a fair division of assets. My contributions to the marriage should be recognized." Judge Morrison cut him off. "Your contributions. You systematically deceived your wife, spent marital assets on affairs, plotted to steal her separate property, and planned to humiliate her publicly. Your contribution was betrayal." Sit down. The final divorce decree was issued 4 months after I filed. Judge Morrison ruled that the penthouse was entirely my separate property, confirming what Diana had argued. She ordered Marcus to repay the $87,000 he had spent on Amber, plus interest. She split our actual marital assets 60-40 in my favor, citing his waste of marital funds. And she ordered him to be responsible for all his hidden debts. Marcus left the courthouse a broken man. His mother would not even look at him. Amber had long since moved on. Last I heard, she was dating a professional athlete. Reynolds had lost his law license permanently after the ethics board investigation found multiple violations. As for Marcus' business partners, they had asked him to leave the firm shortly after the anniversary disaster. The viral video had damaged the company reputation, and they could not afford to keep him on. He tried to start his own consulting business, but his reputation preceded him. Clients did not trust him. Associates did not want to work with him. Within 6 months of the divorce, Marcus had filed for bankruptcy. His debts, combined with the judgment against him, were insurmountable. He lost his car, his expensive watch collection, even the furniture from his apartment. Evelyn had to take him in, but their relationship was strained. She blamed him for ruining the family name, for costing her the mortgage on her house, for destroying everything. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Marcus was working at a car dealership, selling used vehicles on commission. The man who once closed million-dollar deals was now trying to convince people to buy 10-year-old sedans. The man who wore custom suits now wore a polyester blazer with the dealership logo. The man who once commanded respect now endured pity and scorn. But I felt none of the satisfaction I thought I would feel. I did not gloat over his downfall. I did not celebrate his misery. I simply felt sad that he had thrown away something real for something hollow. Sad that he had valued appearance over substance, youth over depth, fantasy over reality. My own life transformed in ways I could never have imagined. The consulting business I had started grew exponentially. What began as a small operation helping nonprofits with financial planning became a multi-million-dollar firm with offices in 3 cities. I hired talented people who shared my values, who believed in doing meaningful work. The media attention from the divorce, surprisingly, helped my business. Women across the country saw me as someone who had stood up for herself, who had refused to be a victim. They wanted to work with someone who had that kind of strength. Within a year, my client list included Fortune 500 companies, major foundations, even government agencies. I was invited to speak at conferences about entrepreneurship, about resilience, about building a business after 50. My talks were always packed. Women would line up afterward to tell me their own stories of betrayal and survival. I started a mentorship program, offering free consulting to women rebuilding their lives after divorce. It became one of the most fulfilling things I have ever done. The penthouse, my sanctuary, became truly mine. I redecorated every room, erasing all traces of Marcus' presence. The dark leather furniture he loved was replaced with light, comfortable pieces. The formal dining room he insisted on became a cozy library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. His study became my meditation room, filled with plants and soft cushions. I started painting again, something I had loved in college but abandoned during my marriage. Marcus always said it was a waste of time, that I should focus on practical pursuits. Now I painted every weekend bold abstracts that expressed emotions I had suppressed for years. Some of my pieces even sold at local galleries. I traveled extensively. Paris in the spring, where I took cooking classes and visited museums. Japan in the fall, where I learned about tea ceremonies and stayed in traditional ryokans. Italy in the summer, where I drove through Tuscany and took wine tasting courses. All the places Marcus had refused to go because they were not prestigious enough or did not have the right business networking opportunities. I made new friends, genuine friends who liked me for myself, not for my husband or my social status. Women who supported each other, who celebrated each other's successes without jealousy. We had dinner parties where we talked about books and ideas instead of gossip and status symbols. We traveled together, took classes together, built real connections. And slowly, carefully, I opened myself to the possibility of love again. Not the desperate, all-consuming love of youth, but the mature, grounded love of someone who knows themselves. I was not looking for someone to complete me. I was already complete. I was looking for someone to share my life with, not someone to define it. That is when I met Daniel Richardson. It was at a charity gala for an organization that helped women restart their lives after domestic violence. I was on the board. He was a donor, a successful architect who had lost his own wife to cancer 5 years earlier. We were seated at the same table. He was quiet, observant, with kind eyes and an easy smile. We talked about the organization work, about the importance of giving people second chances. He told me about his wife, how much he missed her, how he had learned to find joy again after grief. I told him about my divorce, about rebuilding my life, about discovering who I was outside of marriage. We did not exchange numbers that night. But a week later, he called the office and asked if I would like to have coffee. Not a date, he clarified. Just coffee between two people who had survived loss and come out the other side. That coffee turned into a 3-hour conversation. We talked about architecture and business, about travel and books, about grief and healing. He did not try to impress me. He did not talk about his money or his success. He just listened, really listened, in a way Marcus never had. We started seeing each other regularly. Coffee dates turned into dinner dates. Dinner dates turned into weekend trips. But we took our time. Neither of us was in a rush. We had both learned that real connection cannot be forced. Daniel was different from Marcus in every way. He was secure in himself, comfortable with who he was. He did not need a young trophy girlfriend to feel masculine. He did not compare me to other women. He loved that I was strong and independent. He said it was one of the things that attracted him to me. When I told him about my business successes, he was genuinely proud. When I showed him my paintings, he studied them carefully and asked about my inspiration. When I talked about my mentorship program, he offered to volunteer. He saw me as a partner and equal, not as an accessory. A year after we started dating, Daniel asked if he could move some of his things into the penthouse. Not move in completely, he said. Just enough to feel like he had a space here when he stayed over. I thought about it carefully. This penthouse was my sanctuary, my symbol of independence. Could I share it? But Daniel was not Marcus. He did not try to take over or change things. He simply added his presence, gentle and unobtrusive. His books on the shelf next to mine. His coffee mug in the kitchen. His reading glasses on the nightstand. The penthouse did not become his. It became ours, but in a healthy way, where both people had space and respect. On what would have been my 33rd wedding anniversary with Marcus, Daniel and I went to dinner at a small Italian restaurant. Over tiramisu and espresso. He reached across the table and took my hand. "Victoria," he said, "I've been thinking about something. We have been together for 2 years now. Love you. I love your strength, your intelligence, your kindness, your resilience. I love who you are and who you are becoming. And I was wondering if you would consider marrying me." I looked at him, this good man who had entered my life when I thought I was done with love. My eyes filled with tears. "Daniel," I said softly, "I love you too. You have given me something I did not think I would ever have again. True partnership, real respect, authentic connection. But I need you to understand something. I am not the same woman I was in my first marriage. I cannot be a traditional wife who defers and compromises and makes herself smaller. I need equality. I need independence. I need to be my own person within our relationship." He smiled. "That is exactly who I want you to be. I do not want you to change. I do not want you to be anything other than yourself. That is the woman I fell in love with. So yes," I said, tears streaming down my face. "Yes, I will marry you." We married 6 months later in a small, intimate ceremony. Just close friends and family, 30 people instead of 150. No grand ballroom, no elaborate production. Just 2 people who loved each other, committing to build a life together on a foundation of honesty and respect. My sister was my maid of honor. Daniel's son from his first marriage was his best man. We exchanged vows we had written ourselves, promises about supporting each other's dreams, respecting each other's boundaries, being partners in the truest sense of the word. I wore a simple white dress, elegant and age-appropriate. Daniel wore a charcoal gray suit. We danced to jazz music from the 1950s. We cut a small cake and toasted with champagne. It was everything my first wedding was not: intimate, authentic, joyful. As I danced with my new husband, I caught sight of myself in a mirror. I saw a woman with gray hair and laugh lines, with a strong body and confident posture. I saw a woman who had survived betrayal and come out stronger. I saw a woman who had reclaimed her life and built something new. And I realized something profound. Marcus leaving me was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it forced me to find myself again. It forced me to remember who I was before I became someone's wife. It forced me to stand up and fight and refuse to be diminished. If he had not betrayed me, I would still be living that half-life, pretending to be happy, settling for crumbs of affection, making myself smaller to fit into his vision of what a wife should be. I would have missed out on this, on real love, on true partnership, on becoming fully myself. Years passed. My business continued to thrive. Daniel architecture firm merged with mine to create a unique consulting company that helped nonprofits design and finance new buildings. We traveled the world together, working on projects in developing countries, using our skills to make a real difference. I published a book about my experience, not a bitter tell-all, but a thoughtful exploration of how women can reclaim their power after betrayal. It became a bestseller. Women wrote to me from all over the world, thanking me for giving them hope, for showing them that life after 50 can be vibrant and fulfilling. I started a foundation that provided grants to women starting businesses after divorce. We funded over 500 women in the first 5 years, helping them achieve financial independence and rebuild their lives. It became my legacy, the thing I was most proud of. On my 65th birthday, Daniel threw me a surprise party. Not a big production like Marcus' anniversary disaster, but an intimate gathering of the people who mattered most. My sister, my closest friends, my business partners, the women I mentored. Everyone who had supported me through my transformation. As I looked around the room at these faces, these people who loved me for who I truly was, I felt overwhelmed with gratitude. Not for the betrayal itself, but for what came after. For the strength I discovered. For the life I built. For the love I found. Someone asked me to give a speech. I stood up, glass of champagne in hand, and looked at Daniel, at my friends, at my sister. 15 years ago, I said, my husband publicly humiliated me at our anniversary party. He announced he was leaving me for a younger woman. He tried to take everything I had built. He thought he was destroying me. The room was quiet. But he was not destroying me, I continued. He was freeing me. Freeing me from a relationship where I was not valued. Freeing me from the prison of trying to be someone I was not. Freeing me to discover who I really am and what I am capable of. I raised my glass. So here is to betrayal, I said. Not because we wish for it, but because when it comes we have a choice. We can let it destroy us, or we can let it transform us. We can be victims, or we can be warriors. And I chose to be a warrior. Everyone cheered and clinked glasses. Daniel came and put his arm around me, kissing my temple. I am so proud of you, he whispered. That night, after everyone had gone home, Daniel and I sat on the penthouse balcony looking out at the city lights. I thought about Marcus, wondered where he was, if he was happy, if he had learned anything from what happened. I heard he remarried, Daniel said, as if reading my thoughts. Someone from his support group. They are managing a small store together in the suburbs. He nodded. I hope he found peace. Mean that. I hope he learned that you cannot build happiness on someone else's misery. Do you ever regret how things turned out? Daniel asked. Not for a second, I said. Every moment of pain led me here. To this view, this life, this love. To knowing myself completely. I would not trade that for anything. We sat in comfortable silence, hands intertwined, watching the city sparkle below us. And I thought about all the women out there who were where I had been 15 years ago, facing betrayal, feeling lost, wondering if they would ever be happy again. I wanted to tell them what I learned. That the end of one story is the beginning of another. That strength is not something you are born with. It is something you discover when you have no other choice. That you are more resilient, more capable, more powerful than you know. I wanted to tell them that society lies to us about aging, about what women over 50 can achieve, about what life looks like after marriage ends. I wanted them to know that some of the best years of your life can come after the worst year. That transformation is possible at any age. That it is never too late to become who you were meant to be. Most of all, I wanted them to know that they deserve more. More than a partner who takes them for granted. More than a relationship where they have to shrink themselves to fit. More than a life half lived to please someone else. You deserve passion and respect and authentic love. And I realized something profound. Marcus leaving me was the best thing that ever happened to me. Because it forced me to rediscover who I was outside of that marriage. It forced me to stand up for myself, to fight for what was mine, to refuse to be a victim. It forced me to become strong in ways I never knew I could be. I am 60 years old now. I have gray hair that I refuse to dye. I have wrinkles that I earned through laughter and tears and living. I have a body that has carried me through 6 decades of life. And I am proud of all of it. I am proud of every scar, every line, every imperfection. Because they tell the story of a woman who survived betrayal and came out stronger on the other side. To anyone reading this who is going through something similar, who is being told they are not enough, who is being discarded for someone younger or prettier or shinier, I want you to know something. You are not the problem. You never were. And what feels like the end right now is actually the beginning of something better. Something truer. Something that belongs entirely to you. Do not beg someone to stay who wants to leave. Do not shrink yourself to fit into someone else's fantasy of who you should be. Do not believe the lies they tell about your worth. You are valuable. You are strong. You are enough. And when the dust settles, when the divorce is final, when the tears have dried, you will look back on this moment and realize it was not a tragedy. It was a liberation. It was the universe's way of removing someone who did not deserve you and making space for something better. Something real. Something worthy of who you are. Marcus wanted someone young and exciting. He got loneliness and regret. I wanted peace and authenticity. Got freedom and joy. We both got exactly what we truly needed, even if it was not what we thought we wanted. That is the thing about betrayal. It reveals the truth. And the truth, no matter how painful, is always better than a beautiful lie. Because you cannot build a real life on a foundation of deception. Eventually it all comes crashing down. Better to face the truth now, painful as it is, than to waste more years living a lie. So to my ex-husband, wherever you are now, I say this. Thank you. Thank you for showing me who you really were. Thank you for forcing me to find my own strength. Thank you for leaving, because staying would have killed the woman I was meant to become. You thought you were breaking me, but you were actually freeing me. And for that I am grateful. This is the story of my silver anniversary. The night my husband chose someone else, and the journey that followed. It is a story of betrayal and heartbreak, yes. But more than that, it is a story of resilience, self-discovery, and the unbreakable strength that lives inside every woman who refuses to be defined by someone else's rejection. I am Victoria Lawson. I am 60 years old. I am divorced. I am an entrepreneur. I am a mentor. I am a survivor. And I am thriving. And if you are going through something similar right now, I promise you this. One day you will be thriving too. One day, you will look back on the person who left you and feel nothing but gratitude that they did. Because their leaving made room for your becoming. And the woman you become will be so much stronger, so much wiser, so much more authentically yourself than you ever could have been in that relationship. The end of a marriage is not the end of your story. It is the beginning of a new chapter. And this chapter, it is all yours to write. Make it beautiful. Make it bold. Make it everything you deserve. 'Cause you do deserve everything. Never forget that.